Welcome to the Collide Kids podcast, hosted by Christen Clark. This is a show for kids and families. You are going to meet new people and have fun while you listen. Let's do it!
Hey, y'all. Welcome to the Collide Kids podcast. I'm your host, Christen Clark. The Collide Kids podcast is a show for kids and families where we learn together how life and faith collide. I am so glad that you're listening today. Thank you so much for being here and spending this time with me. If this is your first time listening, I just want to say welcome. I'm glad you're here too. Be sure to listen to the end of every episode. That's where we have the kids only segment where kids just like you get to be in the podcast. Well, I hope you guys are having a wonderful April so far. It's all about pollen right now for me. I don't know what's blooming, but it's getting to me for sure. This week, April is also all about books. And so this month on the podcast, we are featuring 5 amazing different books. And I'm excited to present these 5 authors who are all unique and diverse and passionate about encouraging kids in very different ways. I'm also excited to announce the spring giveaway, which might have something to do with reading for the month of April. So all you have to do during the month of April is go to my website, collidekidspodcast.com, and subscribe to the monthly newsletter, and then leave a rating and a review on your favorite podcast app and send me a screenshot so that I know you did it and show me where you did it. And then you are entered to win one of the 3 prize packs. I'm giving away a devotional, a family devotional, a picture book, and a gift card to Chick-fil-A because that is the Lord's chicken. And what could be better than eating some chicken nuggets while you're reading a great book with your family? So head over to my website so that you can subscribe and enter to win one of these 3 amazing prize packs. I can't wait for you guys to get these. All the prize packs are different, have different books and different devotionals. So go to my social media, Instagram and Facebook, and you can learn more about the prize packs I'm giving away. Just a few days ago, we all stopped for a moment to experience the solar eclipse. Wasn't that amazing? Where I live, it was just a partial eclipse, but it was still so cool to see that and wear those fun glasses. Some people experienced a total eclipse where it got dark and the nighttime animals started making noises. Some of those videos I got to see were amazing. So I thought it'd be fun for us to play a little trivia game. Maybe you can challenge the people that you're listening with. Maybe if you're in the car with mom or dad, or you're just listening in the house, you can play a trivia game and keep score to see who gets the right answer. This will be multiple choice, and all of the questions are going to be about space and astronomy. So here we go. Number 1, how often does a lunar eclipse occur? How often does a lunar eclipse occur? A, every 2 months, B, every 2 years, or C, twice a year? Well, if you guessed C, twice a year, you are correct. Isn't that cool that a lunar eclipse happens twice a year? That's so awesome. Okay, here's the second one. There are 4 planets made up of mostly gas: Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus. Which is the 4th? A, Neptune, B, Venus, C, Earth. If you guessed A, Neptune, you are correct. Jupiter, Saturn, and Uranus are all made up of mostly gas. Isn't that amazing? All right, here's number 3. Earth is located in the Milky Way galaxy. What is the closest galaxy to us? A, the Andromeda galaxy, B, Canis Major Dwarf galaxy, or C, the Cartwheel galaxy? Well, if you guessed B, Canis Major Dwarf Galaxy, you are correct. And all of those galaxy names are real. They're really interesting names, aren't they? But the Canis Major Dwarf Galaxy is the one that's closest to us. All right, how are you doing? Who's got the most points so far? Raise your hand. Awesome. Here's number 4. What planet is the densest in our solar system? What planet is the densest in our solar system? A, Saturn, B, Earth, or C, Jupiter? If you guessed B, Earth, you are correct. Jupiter and Saturn are very large, but Earth is the densest planet in our solar system. This is so fun. Okay, number 5. What government agency is responsible for the science and technology related to space? A, Space Force, B, Federal Aviation Administration, or C, National Aeronautic and Space Administration? If you guessed C, National Aeronautic and Space Administration, you are correct. And that's where we get the name NASA. That's what it stands for, National Aeronautic Space Administration. Pretty cool. Okay, number 6. What is the study of the stars, planets, and galaxies called? A, astronomy. B, anthropology. C, astronautics. If you guessed A, astronomy, you are correct. Okay, here's the last one. This is for all the points. Jeremiah 33:22 says, the stars cannot be numbered. There are too many to count. According to scientific estimates, how many stars does the Milky Way galaxy hold? A, 400,000, B, 400 million, or C, 400 billion. If you guess C, 400 billion, you are correct. There are 107 billion known galaxies with trillions of stars each. So Jeremiah was right. And I think it's really cool to learn how much the Bible has revealed about the universe and science. So awesome. Well, I'm really excited for you guys to meet our author today. Her name is Tina Cho. She is the author of 5 picture books and an upcoming middle grade graphic novel. She is a kindergarten teacher by day and a writer by night and weekends. She and her family lived in South Korea for 10 years and moved back to the States during the pandemic. Today, we'll be talking with her about her latest book, God's Little Astronomer. And if you love all the space talk and learning more about the sky and all the things in the universe, you are going to love this conversation with my friend, Tina Cho. Well, Tina Cho, I am so excited to have you on the Collide Kids podcast today.
Thank you so much. I'm glad you've invited me.
Yeah, this is so great. And I'm excited to talk about your book, which I have a copy of and I love because I'm such a huge fan of science and STEM and learning more about how all these things go together. So will you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure. My name is Tina Cho, and I'm a kindergarten teacher by day and a writer by night. I'm married and I have 2 kids. They're older. My daughter's 21 and my son is 18.
Okay. And so you teach kindergarten. What's that like?
It's a lot of fun, but it's very tiring. But I love being around this age group, 5 and 6-year-olds. They say the cutest things and they keep me young.
Yeah. Do they help with your book? Like, do they help give you ideas for your book?
Yes, because my editor sent sketches for the cover for the next book in this series. And then I ask my students their advice. Which one do you like and why? And so then I turn around and tell my editor those things.
You have like your own test group where you can test out what the book looks like and be like, I have research about this.
Yes.
That's great. Okay, well, good. Well, I'm excited to talk to you today. But before we do that, because this is a show for kids, I always make my guests tell me a joke. So do you have a joke for us today?
Sure. And this first one was written by my daughter when she was 8 years old. And for Clubhouse Juniors magazine, they have a section for jokes. So she said, what is a horse's favorite indoor game?
Ooh, I don't know.
Nintendo.
That's a good one. Nintendo. That's awesome.
So that got published.
And it got published. Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah, I love Clubhouse Junior magazine. That's so good. Okay, so let's talk about your book. First, tell us the title of the book and how you came up with the idea for writing a book about this.
Okay, so the title is God's Little Astronomer. And I came up with the idea because the editor, Boonmi Shola, put out a wish list for manuscripts she'd like to see. And one was a science and faith series of picture books for children. And when I had my daughter, 21 years ago, at that time, there were a lot of books geared toward babies about science and music. So Baby Loves Mozart and Baby Loves all these science topics. And it's still going strong today because the parents want to teach their children early on how to be smart. So I haven't seen one that mixes faith and science. So that's how I came up with it.
Okay. So you have a series of books. What are the other books included in this series?
So book 2 will come out next year, God's Little Oceanographer.
Ooh,
And
okay.
then we're working on ideas for book 3.
I love that. And you're right. There are not many science books out there. I have had a couple of authors on here who've talked about their science books and they say the same things. Like kids, especially that older age group, they're really interested in science and STEM. That's one of their favorite things about school. So I love that you're doing this. So tell me, what is something fascinating that you learned about astronomy and why that was so important to put it in the book? We'll be right back after this. Raising kids in the digital age isn't easy, but Bark Technology makes products that help parents keep their kids safe online and in real life. They have an app, a phone, and a home device that lets families set parental controls on their internet-connected devices. I love the app because it helps us manage screen time and blocks websites and apps we want our kids to avoid. It also sends alerts and gives us the ability to monitor texts and social media and even track your child's location. Visit bark.us to learn more about how you can keep your kids safe online. Use the code COLLIDEKIDS to get 15% off your subscription of the Bark app.
When I taught 6th grade, long ago, I had to teach a unit on space science and about the stars. So I think learning about the stars is really interesting for kids, how they're all different colors of stars, and stars don't have 5 points. They're round spheres.
Right.
So that's pretty interesting.
That's cool. And so what age group is this book geared towards?
Picture book age. So I think it's like 3 to 8, 3 to 9.
Good. I love that. Okay, so tell us a little bit more about astronomy. What are some things that we can learn about God through astronomy and through science?
I think we can learn how creative God is. I mean, the fact that when you think about like asteroids, they're not anything beautiful, but each one is different from the other one.
Mm-hmm.
It points to how he's created us as humans. We are all different, just like our fingerprints.
Right.
It shows how creative God is. It shows his power to create all these things out of nothing from his breath, and his glory, just looking up at the night sky.
That's good. One of my favorite verses is Psalm 19:1, where it says, "The heavens declare the glory of God and the skies proclaim the work of his hands." And I love to think about how like creative God is, like you said, just that he painted all these things and he did all of this just by speaking it into existence, and he doesn't have to work hard to make something look beautiful. And so we can see his glory and how science and the world and the universe worships him and proclaims his name.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit more about your book. What are some things that your kids have liked about reading your book?
Well, I read this to a group of 2nd graders in New York City the other day, and they pointed out the stars, that they really enjoyed learning about the stars and looking at the different planets, how colorful everything is.
I love that. And I love that you get to read that for kids and let them like talk about what your book is like. So how did that set up? Is that something that your publisher set up for you to be able to read to a group of kids?
No. Last year I presented to this organization. It's a volunteer basis for one of my other picture books. And so they invited me back this year.
Oh, I love that. Okay. So how many other books have you written?
So that's kind of a hard question because I write work for hire books, and then I have the regular books. So
okay.
I have 6 picture books, I believe, and I have a middle grade novel coming out. And then like I have a work for hire chapter book and a bunch of other little books I've written for the educational market since I'm a teacher.
That's amazing. Now, do you love writing? Is that something that you love to do?
I only like writing for children. I started that in 2008, but before then I did not like writing, especially papers in college and stuff.
Yeah, I'm the same way. So how did you get started in writing? Like what made you want to become an author?
So, because I'm a teacher first, I would always read picture books to my students and other books. And so I fell in love with reading picture books. And in 2008, we were living in California, and I wasn't teaching at the time. I was raising my kids. And so I thought I'd look into how to write a picture book. So I Googled that, and it led me to an organization called SCBWI, the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. So they hooked me up with an in-person writing group. They happened to be a Christian group led by Nancy I. Sanders. And they kind of took me under their wing, and she and all of them taught me things about writing.
Okay. And so how is that different from like writing papers for school and things like that? Like how is that writing process different?
Well, writing for school is more boring topics and a lot of research from these thick books. I mean, writing for children, you get to write from your heart and write from your experiences and make it fun and interesting, and it doesn't have to be so long. That's what I hated the most of writing in college was the word count.
Yes.
So I'd make the font really big and
right. And your like margins go in a little bit so it looks longer. Yeah. That's good. And I love that, you know, as you're teaching and you're teaching kindergartners and teaching younger kids, you really get to see what is out there and what is missing and what kids are into or what they're interested in. So I love that you have that experience. How did you become a teacher? What was it that made you want to become a teacher?
I've always wanted to be a teacher since I was a little kid. I used to play school with my brother and sister and made them do worksheets. And then I went to college and studied education. And then I got to travel for a music group. I was their pianist. Anyway, we were in Mississippi at a orphanage and we ministered there. And when I saw the kids, God kind of just reiterated to me that he wanted me to teach. So,
Oh, I love that.
I've been doing that ever since.
That's great. And it's a high calling. I mean, really, like you're someone that spends so much time with people's children and you pour into them and they really are going to learn to love to read because you're their teacher, right?
Yes.
That's awesome. So tell us a little bit more about this idea of intertwining faith and science, because I feel like this is something we've talked about before on the podcast, but a lot of times there's this viewpoint that faith is separate from science, but it really isn't. It goes together. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, science starts with God because God created the world. And the Bible speaks so much about science. The Bible is our first textbook, you know? And so everything that we learn comes from God. And as a teacher, I used to teach at the Christian school too, so I could mix it even more. So explaining different topics using verses from the Bible. So that's kind of missing from today's science books.
True. And so, like you said, the Bible was our first textbook. So we learned so much from scripture. And I think it's really interesting too when we come across science information in the Bible. What are some things from the Bible that stood out to you that helped you with writing this book?
Like the constellations. Job talks about different constellations in the Bible. So I was able to, like Job 9:9, it says, he made all the stars, the Bear and Orion, the Pleiades, and the constellations of the southern sky. So there you go.
Yeah. That's really cool. I didn't know that was in there, that the constellations were in.
Right.
That's amazing. Yeah. And so there's so many different things that we can learn about God through science. What is something that you have learned about who God is as you're putting together this book about the stars and the planets and all of that? What is something that you have learned that God's spoken to your heart about?
I think one of the messages that I wanted to come through strongly from this book is that even though God created all this vast universe, he cares mostly for me. God's love is shown to me through his universe. So I think that is something that he laid on my heart through this book.
That's beautiful. And that's so true. And something that we talk about just about in every podcast episode, that God loves us so much and we can't even imagine. So to think about how big and how vast the universe is, and yet he cares so much about the things in our life and he cares about our heart. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Well, Tina, this has been so good. Thank you so much for sharing today. Where can our listeners find your book and order it?
They can find it anywhere books are sold, like Barnes & Noble, Amazon, even Target, Walmart.
Okay, well, good. We'll definitely go check out Tina's book, The Little Astronomer. And then how can they find out more about you and your other books that are coming out soon?
My website is tinamcho.com.
Okay.
And then I have a list of my books.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Well, this has been so good. Before I let you go, I always ask my guests to tell me a memory from when they were a kid. So do you have a memory you want to share with us today?
Well, I already said that I used to play school with my brother and sister and made them do worksheets. But I also loved to read as a kid, and my mom read to me. And back then when I was growing up, we had a record player. So I used to listen to stories on records.
Yes. Was it like the ones that were tucked in the back of the book?
Yeah, there were some of those, yeah.
Okay.
Or I think you could check them out from the library also.
Nice. I used to have the cassette tape books, and then you had
Right.
Teddy Ruxpin. Did you have Teddy where you could stick the tape inside the bear? It was like a giant bear that had a tape
Right, I
deck
remember
inside.
that.
Yeah. And he would read us a book. So I love that.
It's cute.
Well, Tina, thank you so much for being on the show today. And thank you for writing this book and for your passion for science. I'm so excited for our listeners to check this out.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
I just love learning about science. And I love that she said there was a need for science books and she decided to put one together so that kids can learn about science and get excited about astronomy, just like she is. I love when she said that God is creative, like thinking about all the asteroids and all the different things in different stars and planets. It all shows his power and his glory and his wonder. And it's so amazing that we get to see those things with telescopes and get to learn more about them each and every year. Tina said science starts with God. The Bible was our first real textbook. That's so true. We learned so much about space and science and the universe from reading more in the Bible. And I always love hearing stories about people who knew what they wanted to do when they were kids. Just like Tina knew she wanted to be a teacher even when she was a young child. She knew that with her whole heart. That was something God put inside her. And it's so cool that she's able to do that and also write some really cool books about space. If you'd like to learn more about her books, you can go to tinamcho.com and check out her books and her new ones that are coming up. And you can find God's Little Astronomer wherever books are sold. Well, now it's time for the kids only segment. This is the part of the show where you get to be on the podcast. So here is my friend Dillon.
Why did the chicken cross the road?
Because that's so funny. Why did the chicken cross the road? That's a good one. Okay, thank you, Dillon. That was so good. Hey, if you would like to be like Dillon and share a really funny joke, just like she did, or if you want to share a Bible verse or a song, just head over to my website, collidekidspodcast.com, and click the tab at the top that says Kids Only. You can also follow me on social media. I'm on Facebook at the Collide Kids Podcast or on Instagram at Collide Kids Pod. If you'd like to support the podcast, there's a few ways you can do that. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast app and leave a rating and a review. Hey, if you do that this month, you could be entered to win one of the 3 prize packs, which includes God's Little Astronomer book by Tina Cho. And if you've listened today and you think of a friend who really needs to hear this episode, share it with them. Let them know why you and your family like to listen. Or you can also go by my website and click the link that says support. And anytime you think about it, I always appreciate your prayer support as well. Well, I hope you guys have an amazing week. I hope you get a chance to look up at the beautiful sky and appreciate God's creativity and his power and his wonder. And in case no one has told you today, I would love to be the first to remind you that God loves you so very much. Thanks for listening.
You don't have to go very far looking for bad news because somehow it just finds you. So finding peace in the chaos can be really difficult, but it doesn't have to be because the River mobile app exists. The River is a Christian music radio station dedicated to playing music to help you get through life's toughest moments or life's happiest moments and everywhere in between, and all from artists who love Jesus and are real people just like you. Listening is easy. You can download it wherever you get apps from. Just search 1049 The River or listen online at riverradio.com. And know that The River is proud to partner with the Collide Kids podcast.